What's up, Internet? You're tuning episode 136 of Nintendo Noise, Flip Screen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined today by my very good friend and co-host, Miss Sierra Plus Ultra.
Hello.
Welcome back, Sierra. How you doing?
I'm not bad. Great to be back. How you doing, Pete?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited to have an indie world to talk about. This is a pretty interesting one. I think I feel bad for this event, if I'm honest with you, because I feel because there was all those rumblings about a Hollow Knight Silk Song, and it was getting rated everywhere, and everyone's like, "Is this is the one? It's going to get revealed. It's going to get a release date." And don't get me wrong, I get it. I get the hype. Obviously, folks loved Hollow Knight, and we've been waiting for Silk Song for so long. I think at this point, it's just like people are hungry for kind of any scrap of information that we can get about it, which fair enough. But yeah, I feel like as a result, there's a little bit of that kind of like, oh, it was okay, and it's like, oh, that's a bummer,
like it overshadowed any of the games that were actually featured.
Yeah, and I think that's a shame, because I think that there were a couple games here that really looked really good. So I know you had a bunch on your list that you were excited to talk about today, so I'm excited to talk about what was actually shown, and then on the back half, maybe we'll talk a little bit about what wasn't shown, and we'll get into some of your questions and everything. But before we do that, let's hop into give me, if you want to go from most hype to least hype, we can even do that. Give me, what was the game that you walked away from most excited about today?
Ooh, it's a tie.
Okay,
it's a tie.
Give me your top two. That's fine. You don't have to. We don't have to pick favorites.
I think Refined Self. And it's either Stitch or Sticky Business. I don't know which one I'm going to love more. That's the thing. I need to play them both. But yeah. I guess if I had to pick one, maybe like Sticky Business.
Okay.
Between Sticky Business and Refined Self to pare it down a little bit more.
Refined Self was definitely my number one as well. Okay. I thought that one really really stood out to me. So yeah, let's talk about that one first then. Because I think that was one that kind of the art style immediately caught my attention. It has that really beautiful kind of old school simple pixel art style, but with that really limited color palette as well. And you're playing this android, your creators died, and you have to make all these different narrative choices that impact the story and kind of how you're perceived and how your character's personality develops. And then you'll eventually get classified as one of the game's. It looks like there's 23 personalities from what I was able to look up, but I'm not quite sure exactly where that number ends up. But obviously that also gives you kind of a lot of opportunities for replayability and getting to experiment with branching paths and all that stuff, which is that's my favorite thing to do in video games. It's an immediate buy from me if a game has meaningful narrative branching like that. So yeah, checking a lot of boxes for me right out the gate. What about it for you really stood out?
Yeah, the different personalities outcome really stood out to me. I mean, yeah, also gorgeous. I am so glad. I am so thankful for the amount of just beautiful pixel art games that we just have in general and on the horizon. It's great. It's what I'm really into art style wise.
It's so timeless,
Yes, that's the thing. It's just if it ain't broke, don't stop using it. It's so good. It reminds me a lot of I don't know if you're familiar with MBTI, but that is a personality
I don't think I am.
System that is really popular in Korea.
Okay.
And even Japan a little bit. It's there's a bunch of it's a 4-letter combination that describes your personality, and so there's so many different combinations that can come from that.
Yeah, so it's a lot we have the, is that Myers-Briggs personality? Is that the one
I think it is, but they call it MBT. Yeah, it's probably Myers-Briggs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we got there.
I was wait a second.
Yeah. There you go. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, because yeah. All right. I'm familiar.
Yeah, duh. Okay, yeah. So
yeah, and it definitely seems influenced by that, for sure. But like, I mean, obviously, the archetypes. I mean, I guess there is kind of a little bit of that, even in that, where they give the different like combinations, like names or whatever. But like, because one of them was like the samurai, right? One of them was like,
gambler.
Gambler. There was one that was like the like collector or something like that. You know, it seemed like there was a lot of interesting variants. And when I was doing a little bit of reading up on it, getting ready for this episode, I went to the creator's website, and it was translated to English. So there's like, you know, obviously some margin of error there. But from what I was able to read, it looks like you can kind of have like one major personality type, but then you'll kind of have, I think it's up to 5 that will be listed based on like what actions you took. So like, I guess to like kind of faux borrow like the astrology meme of like, it's like a blank rising, you know, blank moon, you know, it's like that kind of thing. So I don't know. I find that thing to be really interesting. Because like, I love being able to play through a game where I'm making choices and it kind of pushes back, and then like, you know, comparing notes with other players, right? Like, I love the idea of us being able to go and both play it and then sit down and like have a conversation about it and see like, you know, how did you make decisions? Like, how did you solve problems versus how I did? And, you know, well, like what percentage of choices did we make that were similar or not? And then like, as a result, like how different were what we ultimately saw. Like, I think that's just such a like rewarding part of playing games, you know, in general. And like, I've always gravitated towards that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it'll be really, because now knowing how many different personality types are, let's say, well, like a certain one, like imagine like the frustration of like thinking you answered all the things in a way that would net you that result and it didn't, and it like makes you want to go back in again. It's like, wow.
Yeah, totally. Or like, you know, like having like, let me play this, you know, in a naturalistic way of just like make whatever choices I'm going to make and see where it goes. And then like, I love running through and being like, now make all the opposite choices, right? Like if I was really nice to everybody, try to be like more standoffish and see like, how does that change, you know, your relationship with certain characters, or how, you know, this situation plays out, or what tools you have. Like, I don't know. I love that kind of thing so much.
Yeah, for sure.
We got a comment here actually from Amanda over on the Discord who said, I'm personally most excited for Refined Self. I'm personally intrigued by personality psychology, and I like to see how I, as well as other people, land on personality tests, even when they aren't particularly scientifically sound. And I think like that's kind of what's so fun about this, like as a concept for a game for me, is like taking the kind of like, you know, enjoyment that people get out of the kind of pop psychology of personality tests and then like applying it to a game is so interesting. And the fact that it's like you take actions and then it judges you after the fact, rather than like, you know, I mean, I guess that's kind of the same thing, right? It's like, instead of taking a test where it's asking you how you feel about things or how you would act in a certain situation, it's presenting you with a situation and being like, take action, right? And not you being able to kind of like lie to yourself while you're taking the test and be like, oh, I'm this kind. I'm really outgoing, when really you're not, right? Or whatever. Yeah, I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
So it's interesting, right? It's I think it's like a fun social experiment for sure. And being able to, you know, do that with yourself in a game is like a fun, novel idea. I think I'm interested for sure.
Yeah. And the graphics are gorgeous. So very excited about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So speaking of like fun pixel art, I know you said Sticky Business was another one that stood out to you. I know this is one that like really blew up on Steam when it came out, and I know it's been pretty.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I forget when we first saw it, but I remember it was playable at, I want to say maybe not the last one now, maybe 2 ago, Steam Next Fest, and it was like a real popular demo, and everybody was getting into it. And now, you know, time console exclusive, coming to Switch, going to be right at home there, obviously. All the DLC is going to be there day one. So it's like, really, really awesome. I'm sure it'll be a really big hit on Switch as well,
Oh, yeah. I forgot to look this up. What does a timed console exclusive mean?
So whenever they're saying that, they're meaning that there was a deal signed to keep this game on Switch exclusively for probably usually up to a year is like the window. And then after that point, it'll come to Xbox and PlayStation probably.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of just like a it's like an easy way to give you that like talking point in a presentation like this of like, okay, great, like here, this is the thing you can only play on Nintendo Switch and it's available right now. You've heard about this, right? Don't you want to go play it? You can go play it right now,
Yeah.
So
this is how they're really filling out the year. No newbie titles, but a lot of cute little games.
Sticky business, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, it's adorable. I mean, I love people love little stickers that they can put on their water bottles and notebooks and planners. And like it's so relatable as like an artist, like if you want to make any money off your craft, you gotta monetize it. You gotta figure out how to mass produce it.
It's cute. It's cute. Like I didn't realize how much story it had, I guess, like until this presentation, right? Where it was like there's this angle of like they were giving examples of like, oh, like this, character, the customer's like a dad who's trying to get stickers for his kid and like the mom died and it's
his grieving son.
Yeah. And then there was like another one where it's like, oh, this person's like celebrating something or whatever. And it's just like, it's interesting to see how you can kind of inject story into, what is effectively like a management sim, right?
It's like a design, like a graphic design thing.
Yeah. Mixed with like, like the kind of like the classic like tycoon kind of thing, right? Where it's like you're trying to grow the business and unlock more patterns and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a really cute game. Like it definitely caught my attention when it first came out. And I tried to play the demo, but it did not work on Steam Deck at the time. So I never got back to it. I didn't realize it had already gotten DLC and everything.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, really cool to see it come somewhere where it'll probably, I think hit, right? It'll probably get a lot of attention on Nintendo Switch. Plenty of cozy gamers who will, I think, jump right into that one.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what other prompts you have to do to make stickers for people. Like, my boyfriend loves snakes and canned beans. A snake wrapped around a canned bean, like on the "Don't Tread on Me" flag.
Okay, all right, Sierra. So here's the thing. Now, I feel like you and I should open a sticker shop because you're firing out a lot of good ideas already. I think let's set up a side hustle.
This is my chance. This is the universe opened up a path for me to start a sticker shop.
I
like really fucked up shit.
Honestly, like I feel like we may have found a new like calling for you. Because, I used to call you the meme queen of Twitch streams, and I feel like you could come up with a lot of good fucked up stickers.
I'll take a crack at it when I get time.
Definitely. All right, well, when you get time, great. So never. I'll make a sticker shop when I'm dead. All right, so the next one that you wanted to talk about was Stitch, which is a cross stitch game that is like a puzzle kind of thing. It's like it kind of reminds me of what's the word? There's like a type of like coloring book, right? Where it's like there'll be like numbered
color by numbers.
Thank you. It kind of has that energy to it where it's like there's different numbers that you associate with the stitch, but the kind of like, game of it comes from like figuring out what order you need to like do each stitch in to like properly get the pattern that you're trying to create. And then when you get it done, then like you'll unlock like free play and you can kind of like do it in your own colors and iterate on the design. And something I thought was really interesting was that they were talking about like the I think they were weekly challenges. And if you do the challenge, you'll unlock that weekly challenges pattern forever, which is like a really good incentive, I think, to like keep you playing the game, right? I think that's like sometimes I don't want to say problem, but like I think a wall that some of these kinds of like, you know, cozy puzzle games can fall into, where it's like I like unpacking or something like that, where it's like you hit a point where there's just no more content, and it's like that was really cool, and it told me a story, and I enjoyed it, and I wish that there was more to do in like a free play kind of way. So kind of committing to having like a weekly thing where at least once a week there'll be something new for you to do once you do manage to kind of run through everything that is there. I think it's like a really good way to make it a little stickier.
Totally. And I also promised that like there'd be a lot more hoops to come, like updates and whatnot.
Yeah.
So that is when you say that, and like about a game that looks like it could like get old really quickly, like that makes me excited to like actually like get the game and play it. I want to get it because like I like the idea of like tricking myself into thinking I'm starting a new hobby, but without actually investing in it. Like I've always wanted to learn. Like I want to learn how to do everything, but like it's like stitching would be cool, but like I don't want to go out and buy the stuff. So it's kind of in my mind. I am somehow participating.
You can vicariously become a cross stitcher.
Exactly. And all the designs look so good. Like I love like that flat. Like when you're done with it, it just looks like a flat color illustration, and it's so cool.
Yeah, it's a really like it's a really novel concept. You know, like I think it's a good idea because like I like that it is. It's like a cozy game, right? Like that's like a kind of game now, but it's like it's also just an interesting novel idea for a puzzle game. You know, and I think the fact that they found a way to kind of marry the inspiration for the game with like a cool novel gameplay mechanic that's a recipe for success, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so what one do you want to jump into next? We hit the ones that we were like top. Those were our tops.
Yeah. Well, Kitty Game was really good.
Oh, which one? We had two. Little Kitty Big City, the new one.
Little Kitty Big City.
Because I'll tell you what, I don't want to talk about Cat Quest. Because I've
the rest of them kind of faded into sameness. I started seeing a lot of boats.
Yeah, like with that Cat Quest, I've seen too many times, and I thought it looked a little like basic the first time I've seen it, and now I'm just like, damn, it's like the fourth time they're showing. I'm out on Cat Quest 3.
They're really driving home how uninteresting it is.
I know, that's exactly how I feel, and I feel like such a bully saying that. But it's like, damn, this is just not hitting. Like whatever.
Don't worry, Pete. Some 11-year-old out there was fucking like jumping off the couch screaming when that game came on the screen.
You're right.
Don't worry.
They'll love it. They'll love Cat Quest 3. Good for them. But Little Kitty Big City was like, I think that was the game they opened with, right? And it's coming out on May 9th. So it's right around the corner.
Yeah.
And kind of my, if I was going to try to like explain it to somebody, to me, it looks a lot like kind of Stray meets Untitled Goose Game.
Yeah, that's perfect.
It's like it's not like as moody and post-apocalyptic as Stray, and it's more of that kind of like it's cartoony and it's light, and the kind of setup is like you're this cat, you're sleeping on a windowsill in your favorite spot, you get knocked down to the street, and you got to find your way back home, which is like the main objective. But then along the way, there's all these kind of little like Untitled Goose Game-esque like side things that you can do, where it's like they showed you like tripping people or kicking over paint cans and making trouble or whatever. But then there's also, I'm sorry,
the emotes.
Right, the big stretch and everything. Love that. And then there was like some little like side stuff that you could like get some collectibles or rescue this dog that's got his head stuck in a trash can or whatever. Like cute stuff. Seems like it seems like a game I definitely think it's one I feel like I need to see a little bit more of, because I think like the premise seems like, yeah, like that seems cute, that seems fun. But I remember like being really excited for Stray and then kind of feeling like it didn't have a ton of depth beyond its initial idea, right? And it's like, this to me seems like it has the potential to kind of fall on the right side of that line for me, because that was something I thought Goose Game did really well, of like, if you just kind of want to get in and screw around and make it like a, you know, a meme stream game or whatever, and like that's fine. But like going for the kind of completionist run like was actually a lot more fun than I kind of gave it credit for, I think, going into it, you know, and it ended up being a game that I think had more depth than you might have thought it would. And I think this could have that potential. So I hope it hits, because I would love, I think the mischievous side of being a cat is like a really like interesting, it's ripe for a lot of fun gameplay opportunities, I think, if somebody can kind of nail it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's the thing, right? Like, what if it's just like a 10-hour game and like you pay full price and you're like, all right, well, I did everything you could do.
Yeah.
I can collect a bunch of hats. What else is there? Like, what is the replayability here? So I totally get that apprehension.
Yeah, it's like I just want it to feel like, I don't know. I guess I just want it to feel like something that like leaves an impression, right? And is goes deeper than just like, oh yeah, it's like it's a Mimi cat game, right? Like it's like It can kind of be both. Like there are some games that I feel like get over just on like, this has a unique concept and you'll buy it based on that, and then the follow through is not, I don't know, it just doesn't live up to what the kind of excitement for it is, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, it's a game where you play a cat. Okay. You know.
Yeah, what's the gameplay loop here?
and I think that's like, that can be a tough line to dance. And I think sometimes when I see a game like this, my initial reaction is usually apprehension, because I feel like I've been burned more times than not with that kind of game, where it's like the novelty of it wears off more quickly than they'd like, and then the kind of core gameplay loop or the systems there are just like not satisfying really, and it's like you're there for the gimmick, and when the gimmick wears thin, then it's kind of like, what are you left with? And I it doesn't have to be that, right? Like there are games where it's like the gimmick is the hook, and then there's also a really cool fun game here, which is kind of what I was talking about with Stitch. Like to me, that feels like, you know, the vision for me. I'm like, I see how that works, you know?
Yeah.
This, I'm like, I can see how this would work, but I could just as easily see this being a game that like comes and goes and you don't really ever think about it again, as much as like it could be a game that like connects and it's like, oh yeah, no, like this, you know, like Goat Simulator was one like that, where it's like, okay, it's like a dumb meme thing, and then it's like, yeah, they got like, you know, multiple sequels out of that thing, and it ended up having a lot more longevity and kind of vision than I think you might think when you see it the first time, you know?
Yeah, because in the trailer that they showed, they really only showed like one map, really. Like if that's what the game like actually is.
I imagine it's not
different areas.
Yeah, I imagine it's not a long game, right? Like I think the idea that it's like a fairly sized like sandbox world that just has a lot of stuff to interact with and do, like kind of seems like that feels like to me like probably what you're gonna see. And you know, maybe there is a way for you to like do some DLC like that, where you do get like a different layout or like a new city or something like that at some point. But yeah, I think I would be surprised if there was more than one map, you know?
Yeah, I just hope it's not $70. It can't be, right?
No. No. I bet you this is like, I don't think any game we saw here is $70 or even 60, right? Like I think if I had to guess, that's like a $20 game, maybe 15.
Yeah. So you know what? It'll be a cup for me, because I'm like, all right, I want Goose Game but Kitty. And I just like, with friends, it might be fun to like get high and just like you can take turns passing control.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like I think like
things like that.
It that's the bar it needs to hit. And I think me, I feel like I see that, right? And it's like, let's see if they got the sauce,
Exactly.
So, all right, the last game that I think we both wanted to highlight, and we'll talk about some of the other ones in a minute here when we get into the questions and stuff, but was Anton Blast. So this game is an interesting one. It's like there's already a story around it, which is like not a great thing for it to happen on day one. But I did some digging, and I think a lot of folks may have their bias checked against it if they do a little bit of peeking around, because I think immediately looking at it, right, it was right out the gate getting a lot of comparisons to Pizza Tower, which came out last year, right? And if you go and kind of pull some threads on this story, what you'll find out is that Summit Sphere is the developer behind this game, and they're an indie dev that's been around since like 2018. They have a couple different titles that are out already, and a few of them have used this Anton character that you see in Anton Blast already, and they like the inspiration here, right, is Wario Land, right, which is the same game that is the inspiration for Pizza Tower. And there are a few people who have kind of pointed out online that Anton Blast was actually announced first, and it's been in development for a longer amount of time. That the developers that work on both games are actually like seemingly friendly with each other. They've interacted on social media and stuff like that. So it kind of seems like, though there is clearly a lot in common between the two titles, that it kind of being characterized as like a Pizza Tower ripoff is not really fair. It's like,
because like I won't lie, I was like, who's Summit Sphere? Did they do Pizza Tower? And I looked that up.
Yeah, I had a very similar reaction of like, oh, is this like a year later you're pumping out your version of that kind of thing? I had to check my bias there for sure.
At the same time, like more than anything though, like the overall aesthetic, it just gives me that like early aughts like Flash game vibe. Like I didn't think it was explicitly a rip of Pizza Tower in looking up Summit Sphere and checking if they too did Pizza Tower. It was more like, oh, the studio like has a certain like style and they're pumping out another game like this and it's meant to be nostalgic. I think it looks sick. The gameplay is really like zippy and exciting. I mean, like Pizza Tower. I know, like the mechanics. Like,
I mean, that's the thing, though, right? Is like they're both inspired by the same game, so it's like they're both ripping off Wario Land. That's what's happening, right? So it's like
honestly, it's fine. All art is derivative.
It happens. I think it's just one of those like unfortunate things where like multiple teams have the same idea and one gets there first, and it's just like now you're gonna have that conversation about they ripped this off or whatever, and it's just like I think there's probably space for both of them to exist.
No, absolutely, yeah. Why pit two queens against each other?
Exactly. We got to lift each other up. It's so funny you say that because one of the tweets that I pulled, if you can pull this up on your end, I'm gonna have to add it in post here. I'm gonna put a note so I can add it for the YouTube kids. But the Summit Sphere Twitter account, they posted about them being fans of Pizza Tower, and they said Anton Blast fans, Anton Blast is better than Pizza Tower. Pizza Tower fans, Pizza Tower is better than Anton Blast. Anton Blast and Pizza Tower devs, and then it's a picture of the two characters just full on making out.
Oh my God.
So, they are buddies. So I think if they are on the same team, then I think we can all get behind Anton Blast on this one.
I retweeted. I think it's so funny when cartoon characters make out. It's so fucked up, but it's so funny. I have this character from this is so off topic.
Go ahead. It's too late. We're already here, Sierra. If you don't tell the story, people are going to be like, now they're going to ask,
I have a meme in my phone of Phineas from Phineas and Ferb making out with an anime character from a volleyball anime. It's really bad. Also, I obviously have Sonic and Shadow in my phone. Come on. If you're not a real Sonic fan, you don't got that in your phone.
So the only other ones that there was one other one that I know we were both interested in, which was Animal Well, right? Which we've seen a couple times already. That's coming out in May. It's got a release date now, May 9th. And then I think it's pronounced Sheem. It's that shadow hopping platformer that we've seen a couple times. That's coming out on July 18th. So those are both ones we've talked about in the past that are, pretty cool. And then I know Max is excited about another Crab's Treasure that's coming on the 25th of April. That's right around the corner. That's got a demo up right now. We talked about that one on the Steam Deck podcast, I think, when it came out on Steam Next Fest. So there's a lot to look forward to. And I think there's a couple other games worth highlighting here and everything, but we'll get into those in just a second when we get into the question block. But before we do that, let me remind you that this episode of Nintendo Noise is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of April. They are, of course, Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valenz, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Sobe, Snackago, Steve Stompy, Susan Likes Cats and Also Boobies, Ty the Dude, Voodoo Vic, and Wakahula. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/FlipScreenGames. You're all the realest of the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. Remember, if you want to go above and beyond like they did and show your support, you can head over to patreon.com/FlipScreenGames to get a bunch of cool perks and goodies. But if you don't have any money to toss our way, or you just want to get involved in the community in a way that won't cost you a pretty penny, go and head over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you will find links to all the places we are all over the web. You can write into the question block. You can go check out some of our sister shows. You can join the Discord and keep the conversation rolling between episodes. However you choose to get involved or show your support, we thank you for tuning in to another episode of Nintendo Noise. So let's jump into some questions and comments we got this week. I'm going to pull in, there's another one from Amanda who wrote in earlier about Refined Self. She also said, while not every game looked to my taste, most of them look like they're at least fairly high quality and something many will like with Lorelei and the laser eyes especially standing out, even though it doesn't seem like something I'd enjoy.
That's so funny, Amanda, that you had that same thought. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Like every indie world, every direct really, like you go in and you're hoping like, gee, I hope that like by me sitting down and investing my time and watching this presentation, I will love everything. And you don't, but like in this indie world, there was a lot of stuff I could see like, okay, this is not my taste, but like this is a really unique concept or it has a really like distinguished like art style and you can appreciate it for that much, for sure.
Yeah, that to me is something that never bothers me, right? Like if I walk away from a presentation and there aren't games that are for me, but the games look good and varied and interesting, then it's like that's successful, right? That's a good presentation. Like not everything's going to be for you. And that's okay, right? Like these presentations got to speak to a lot of people. So yeah, I'm totally right there with you. And I also thought that was one that stood out in terms of quality. It doesn't really look like a game that I'm very interested in playing. Just it's not really my cup of tea. I don't think, but that doesn't mean it can't be. And I think it coming from Annapurna, it's one of those things where like I feel like generally speaking, their games hit pretty hard. Their on base percentage is pretty high. So it's like, I think it's definitely one that I imagine will be in the conversation later this year and one that I could see coming up, in a lot of those kind of conversations of like indie games you want to be paying attention to. So definitely definitely one that I makes sense that it stood out, I think, even if you're not interested in it. But Andrew Valentine wrote in and was interested in it and a couple other games. And he said, enjoyed it. Very happy to see release dates for Animal Well, Sheem, Another Crab's Treasure, Bzzzt, and Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. On Lorelei, that dev team haven't missed yet, which has me very excited for this one. Great to see Anton Blast as well, filling the pizza tower shaped hole in my heart. About to try the demo for that. Most of all, the announcement of Heist 2 was an unexpected but very welcome surprise. The original is excellent, a super engaging tactical shooter with a ton of personality. I'm not sold on the new seafaring theme compared to the original space setting, but I'm still in on day one for this. So many things to play. Right, so it's like that's a great example there. Look how many games Andrew was excited about that weren't on our list, right? So Bzzzt was one that also did stand out to me a bit. That's supposed to be coming this summer. It's like a kind of classic 2D platformer where you play a little robot. It's just one of those things where I think I didn't see enough of it to really get a sense of whether or not it was to my taste. But I'm interested. You know, I like a good platformer whenever there is one to be found. And then what were the other ones that he called out that we didn't talk about? SteamWorld Heist 2 was one of the other ones I did want to call out because that was kind of like their big one more thing, right? And I think unfortunate for that game to be in that position when people were hoping it would be Silksong. That really sucks. But you know, definitely a big announcement for folks that were a fan of the original, which was really popular. And like Andrew said, right, the kind of like new hook here is like naval combat and exploration and everything. If you're not familiar with SteamWorld Heist, it's like a tactical RPG, like kind of similar to like XCOM, right, with like real time like aiming and all that kind of stuff. So a game that a lot of people connected with quite a bit. So, you know, definitely one that I'm sure will have a lot of excitement behind it, even if maybe it was not the closer that people were hoping for.
Yeah. Whoops.
Yeah, we'll see. Which that takes us to our next question from our dear friend Mr. Chewy Plays, who wrote in and he supplied me with a tweet that I'm going to read. And then it's his question. So his question comes with supplemental reading, everybody. But this tweet is from at Deadline SMB, who said, kind of hate that the Silksong wait has gotten to this point. It must be incredibly demoralizing as an indie creator to have your game segment shown off for only 99% of the chat to complain about an unrelated game not being there. And then Chewy said, do you think this will improve after Silksong releases, or will people just jump onto Hades 2 or the Haunted Chocolatier right away? And then the kind of broader question is, what are your thoughts on high-profile indies stealing the show?
Let's go.
Yeah. Do you have? So, what do you think about? I guess. Well, I'll take it whatever order you want. I guess.
I think that what stinks is like chat can be so loud. People screaming in a stream chat can be very loud, but they kind of have to ignore it. I think that like your game is still going to be a fantastic game no matter what the kids on the Twitch or the YouTube chat are saying. Like, and also like, it's not like the indie devs' fault that it's gotten this bad. Like, I do wish people would like be more courteous, but this is the internet in 2024. So then you kind of just have to like say to yourself, like, all right, well, this isn't because of our game. This is because of other stuff. I think that it will get better. I actually do think it will get better after Silksong is out because news of Hades 2 dropped and like nobody was like screaming about it. Like people were stoked about it that I saw, but like the temperature feels mild on that one.
I feel like I feel like it hasn't had as much of a drought, right? Because it's like, to your point, like we got like it was only announced not that long ago, and then we already have gotten news about it, and we know that there's going to be an early access already started, right? Like so there's already like there's stuff about it, whereas like Silksong, you know, it's just been so quiet for so long. And it was like, it was supposed to be DLC. It was supposed to come out years ago. Like, it's been in development for like years at this point, you know? And I think, you know, there's something that kind of happens with games like that where like they start building up a mythos, and, you know, you saw it happen with Starfield, right? And it's like, not to say that like, and Cyberpunk, right? I guess as well. It's like I'm trying to think of an example that's not
the thing, right?
a tragedy, because I don't want to imply that that's what's going to happen with Silksong. I think it will probably deliver, but I think you get a point where hype hits a fever pitch and it ends up being bad instead of good for your game, and it ends up being like weaponized against your game, because if it doesn't live up to being like the next coming, then we wasted all this time and investment, and for what? And like that's what you kind of want to avoid. So like, I think that's the kind of worry that they have right now. And I do agree with you that like it will get better when it comes out, because I think like those other examples, like, you know, like Haunted Chocolatier is something that I think like when we're closer to it, there will be a lot of hype for it. But right now, I think everybody knows that it's far out, and it's this idea that it's like, it's cooking, you know, and it's like, the fact that this game has been a thing that we've been like, is this the one that where we're going to see it for every presentation for God knows how long at this point? I think that's the problem. Like, that's why we're at where we're at with it, where it's, we just need to see something. We need movement. We need to kind of get that release for all the tension that's been built up for it. And I get why they don't want to do that, because at this point, like, when they do talk about it, they got to be ready. They got to have a release date. They got to be ready to put it out and not tease us anymore, because I think they've crossed the point where that's going to get hostile if it's not resolved sooner than later. Or if the game comes out and it's not great, if it's not as, even if it's good, right? But like, it needs to be better than the original, or it needs to be like, you know, really dynamic and innovative and pushing things forward. And that's probably part of why it's taking so long, is that they know that it needs to hit that bar.
The bar is high. Mm-hmm. I would be even more mad, like, at all of those like loud people in all of these presentation chats. Like, if the game dropped and they were super fucking vitriolic about it on Twitter, like my hope is that like everyone will be satisfied. It will be a good game, but like hopefully people won't find things to nitpick about it.
That's the worry.
It's probably going to turn out fine. Yeah, just the way things are now and the way people are is so scary.
And you know, like the danger of marketing cycles, right? And like not handling them right, and like talking too early. You know, it's like, I think that like in retrospect, right? Like, it's probably clear now that they announced the game like years ahead of when they should have. But like,
yeah, because they didn't they? They were like, Silksong's coming.
It was supposed to be DLC.
In 5 years.
Like, that's the thing, is like, this was supposed to be DLC for the first game. And they're like, oh, it expanded in scope. Now it's its own game. And then like, they showed it at that Xbox event a couple years ago, and Xbox was like, everything we showed is coming out in 18 months. And they're like, even Silksong? Yeah, 18 months. And here we are, multiple years later. And it's like, still, you know, nothing, right? No word, no window, nothing. And
I know,
you know, if you're somebody who's like waiting for it at every event, like, you know, like, I think you hit a point where like that excitement turns to frustration, you know, and I think they're kind of at that tipping point, you know, and if the game comes out and it's a hard 10 and it's amazing, then it won't matter, because like, you know, quality talks, but you know,
the way it was worth it. But
to your point though, if there's things to nitpick, people will.
Yeah. Oh, for 1,000%.
They were going to anyway, but like with this much of a wait, it's like, what was all that fucking wait for if it's not great, right? If it's not excellent, then it's kind of like, what the hell was the point of all that?
Yeah. I just hope like all the people that had games in the presentation today feel really proud of themselves, because like that's a huge, like, that's insane to have your game featured in a Nintendo Direct for being like put on the platform.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these games looked really strong. I think a lot of them probably are lighting up a lot of wish lists. I wouldn't be surprised if something like Stitch, you know, that's like available today, is probably like top of the downloads right now. So
yeah, I want to grab it. Like,
you should go play it after this. You need a break. So I'm going to end this episode with this last question from Trendy Brendy, which I'm going to use as a jumping off point, Sierra, because you're on the show to talk about the Nintendo Switch 2. So Trendy Brendy said, did seeing another Crab's Treasure performing on console impact your opinion on it? I'm feeling great about the game on other platforms for me personally. I did notice that a little bit. I did think that game looked a little rough on Switch, knowing how it looks on Steam Deck. And, I think that's just where we're at with some of these games, right? Where it's like the Switch is showing its age. And I think even for some of the less intensive games, they're going to look better on other places. They're going to run better on other places. And, if you have other options, then maybe that's the case. But I also don't think to me, it didn't impact my opinion on the game. It's more just like, I think this is just where you're at with certain Switch ports, right? And it's kind of always been a thing if you're somebody who plays on Nintendo, where like certain games are just going to perform better other places. And you got to decide what's more valuable to you, playing it where you want to play it or playing it in the most optimal version or whatever.
Right. I won't lie. I don't really care about this game. I'm not really interested in it.
That's totally fair.
and the other side of the coin is because I'm not interested, like I don't really know what it's supposed to look like on other consoles.
It just looks a little sharper. It's like you're not missing much. Don't worry about it.
But I mean,
I just wanted to bring up the Nintendo Switch 2, if I'm honest.
Yeah, fair. And but this is just a testament as to why Nintendo, I hope they put a delay on that console, because they are really thinking about how games are going to look on the Switch 2. How games are going to look on the Switch 2, and how important that is to justify what inevitably might be a price increase for this like upgraded model of the Switch.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I think if you want to play that one somewhere else, that makes sense to me. But I'm sure it'll run fine on Switch.
So many days of my life where I'm like, man, I should have gotten the Steam Deck. I should have opted into that a long time ago.
I mean, it's never too late. Nice. It's never too late, Sierra. We'd love to have you on the Steam Deck podcast.
I know. Just so many like handhelds even that look awesome in general for like, even for like emulators, like instead of playing on NSO, just like, what if I could just play this on like a really cool snappy little emulator?
Oh, it sounds like we got to get you on the Steam Deck podcast, and we're gonna do an episode where we just tip you over the line.
I gotta get a Steam Deck. That's all. I can finally play Persona 5.
Yes, exactly. All right, gang. Well, we're going to end it there for the day. Thank you guys for joining us here on another episode of Nintendo Noise. If you want to let us know what your favorite games were from today's Indie World Direct, or if you want to let us know what games you wish that we saw at today's Nintendo Indie World Direct, that's great. Write in. I want to hear from you. I want to know what games you're looking forward to. What are the games you're playing on Switch? Or if you grabbed any of the games that were shown today, what did you think about them? What should we be checking out? And maybe Sierra will have her thoughts on one or two of these guys in the next week or something, right? Go grab some Stitch hours in this week if you got time.
Yeah.
So make sure you write in with all your questions, thoughts, questions, concerns, comments. I said questions twice there, but we're going to just glide right past that one. And thank you for joining us here on another episode of Nintendo Noise. Remember, if you want to get involved in the community, you want to go become a Patreon supporter, you want to write into the show, you want to go join the Discord and keep the conversation rolling between episodes, you can do all that and much more over at flipscreen.games. That's the website. Go over there and click on some stuff. It helps us out a whole lot, and it won't cost you a nickel. For the crew, I've been Pete. She's been Sierra. We'll see you next week.